My name is Andrew Fay. I work for the Whatcom Conservation District. I'm going on 23 years this month. They hired me originally for GIS. I was a GIS intern and I did farm plan maps 8 hours a day for a couple of months. And then I started getting into IT work as well. Like, oh, you know, computers, here's the server. Can you manage this? And I'm still there today. So I do enjoy my job. So what we're here today to go over, or me just show you, is me literally creating a farm plan map. And there's not going to be much of a there's not going to be a PowerPoint presentation because it's just going to be me creating a map. And as we go along, you can ask questions or can you go over that again? Because I might fly through it. What takes some people like a couple of hours to do, it'll take me like 20 minutes because I've been doing this for 20 years now. And my processes have changed over the years with different software and different items that come up. I can make it faster. I can make it more efficient. Some of them I'll show you today. Probably most of them I'll show you today. But a little history on our farm plan maps. We started in 99, I think, 98, 99. I came in because the planners were having trouble with GIS and I was intern that created maps and they kept me on, and I'm the only one that creates maps. Well, not creates maps, creates the final farm plan maps in our district. The reason being is if other people do it, they tend to go their own direction and have their own symbology and all that kind of stuff. And having one person doing it creates a very seamless symbology and legends and all that kind of stuff by using templates. There's two of my crew in here. Yeah, and Pauline back there, raise your hand, Pauline. You can ask her how it works. She goes into ArcGIS Pro and does her own maps, or do you use ArcMap? You use ArcMap. And she creates her own map, has a temporary map, and then takes it out to the farm with the farmer and writes up on it lots of stuff. Looks sort of like this. You can barely see, you know, outlining the fields, what crops are there, that kind of stuff. And then we have something like this for the farmstead itself. She draws in gutters. She draws in manure storage. Here's a well. Here's a heavy use area. And we do both small farms and dairy. And all of that data goes into one file geodatabase. And I'll show you a example of that file geodatabase. Databases. Let's see if this works. Please work. Nope. Okay. Of course not. Folders. There we go. No, right now I'm running off of I've got it set up so that it's all running out of a folder here. It's just a file geodatabase that I made a copy of ours and then did some edits and got rid of data and all of that so that we can work here without having to go over the internet. Back to this. So So if you didn't hear that, that was Pauline, one of our planners. She prints out a map and takes it out to the field and writes on it and gives me a clean copy afterwards. Because there's a lot of scribble when you're out with a farmer. There's a lot of scribble. Oh no, not this and not that. And she brings it back to me and usually a clean copy. So every once in a while it's not, and it's like I can't read that, and she goes back and changes it. Or the other planners, I have to do that with them so I can actually read it. And not create a map and go, oh, that's not what I meant. and have to redo it again. I think the paper maps do make it easier, but because we're mostly in the office, it makes it easier. If you're going out and you want to use an iPad, there have our wetlands biologist, she goes out, takes her iPad and does that kind of stuff. She usually, I think last time I talked to her, she takes GIS Pro, which is now something else. It's a web mapping program directly for the iPad that she can go and do all that data collection and export a KML. Sorry, I can't remember the touch GIS. It's pricey, and I think it's for districts, it is $150. Please get a hold of me if you do want to use it. I think there's trial versions and stuff, but we called them up. It's $300 usually per year, but you can get it for $150 if you get the coupon code from me. And you can go out and do lots of data collection through the iPad and then export it as a KML and bring it into ArcMap if you want, or just use that KML and throw it into their planning folder and it's always there. So there's lots of ways you can do that. If you really wanted, you could use Esri Fields, which is the replacement for Collector. You can take that out in the field and collect data that way. A little bit more setup, and you have to maintain it. If you're going out every once in a while, it might be just better with something like Touch GIS, because it's one thing. It doesn't connect to ArcGIS Online. It doesn't connect to online stuff except for aerial photos and that kind of stuff. And then you sync it to that and you can take it out in the field. So there's multiple ways you can do that. Okay, back to the farm plan data set. This is just a copy of our setup. You can see I have my fields here, fences. We have our application risk rating maps as well in here. We have pipelines. We have points, polygons, and polylines. These are miscellaneous lines, points, and polygons that we might add in, because I don't want a feature for every single practice that we put in. So the big ones like buffers and wells and pipelines and swales, I have individual ones for those because I know what they are, and a lot of the maps will have them on it. So I made their own feature set. The other ones, I just have like, here's my points, here's my polygons and my polylines. I don't think I have a lot in the polylines, but I can create more than that. If someone comes to me with a practice I've never done, I can just add it into the symbology, and I'll show you. I may show you that. Remind me if I don't. But they're just in there to house all the miscellaneous stuff. And I will show you the, well, might as well do it now. Under my fields is an attribute table of, come on. Yeah, I need to get rid of that. Can I get rid of that? Dock to top, there we go. Down here is our fields, and we have the field number. We have license number. This is our database ID. For us, it's actually QB ID for QuickBase, but in here, because this is a template I give to other districts, it's database ID. So maybe your customer resource management software or whatever your database is to house all that customer data, you put that ID for that particular customer in here, so you can link the two together later on. And I stress this as much as possible in GIS. It's not just about drawing a little line. It's the attributes behind that line or behind that polygon. So every time you create something in here, you have to fill out the attribute table. So every time I'm creating something, I'm filling out what needs to be filled out. Field number. These are all out of order, but we have farm name, we have owner, we have crop, and over here we also have farm type. Is it a small farm? Is it a dairy farm? Is it a horse farm? we can sort through all those things. The field name, we may have a field number, it's 1, but maybe it's the heifer field or the back lot of Joe Schmo's kind of thing. We have a lot of that in dairy because they mix and match all their manure application fields. So all of these feature sets, the wells have the same kind of layout. Database ID, what kind of well type? They're not in order, but it's all here. Farm name, farm owner. So every single thing I create has data behind it. It's not just about creating a nice map. It's about creating that map and coming back to it 5, 10 years later and have that information handy. I have over 20 years of farm plan fields because I created a nice setup. I created when we had just shape files. We started with multiple shape files, then I put them all into one shape file. Then we went to a personal geodatabase, and then I moved them over to a file geodatabase. As the technology has progressed, I've moved to the next stage. And because I've done that, I have all this information in one data set, in one file geodatabase. And that is very handy when someone comes up to me and says, hey, how many farm plans did we do this year? Or how many farm plans have we ever done? And I can tell them. It takes a lot. If you've got shapefiles hilly-nilly all over the place, it's going to take a lot to bring it all together. And when I say a lot, it's going to take a lot. You need to schedule a week or two for someone in that knows their GIS to bring it in, or someone that really wants to get to know their GIS. It's a great way to learn all that stuff. So every one of these wells, pipelines, points, polygons, fences, swales, buffers, they all have the same attribute table fields. Some of them have more, some of them might, but they don't have less. Like the pipelines, I've even got diameter, when it was installed, that kind of stuff. We have one back at the office for drainage tile. We have how big they were, when they were installed, just in case we ever need to do it. We don't have a lot in there, but if we ever wanted to, we can put them in. Okay. That's the file geodatabase. I'm going to go over, yeah. Do we ever use the field maps application? We will be in the next month for the crop mapping. I've used it a couple of times. Actually, I personally barely use it. It's the other people in the office and they use it more. Whoops, touching the mic. But yes, we have used it, and I've used Collector a lot before that. Yeah, the question was, have I ever used fields? So yes, I have. Someone had a question in the back. So fields is the mobile application, so iPads, mobile phones, so that you can connect to ArcGIS Online and synchronize your data, like synchronize your, like if you go out to a field or go out to a farm, you can synchronize that data, the aerial photo, whatever soils, and then go out there and collect data, then come back and sync it to the cloud, and it's up in the cloud. So it's your data collection for our Esri products, and it's getting bigger and more features are being added to it, and that all the time. But yes, back to ArcMap, we need to actually start creating a shapefile here, or plan here. So, oh, I guess so. Yes, that's what I'm here for.
So others can all access the same data.
Mm-hmm. So for server, we have a on-site server, an on-premise server. It's getting a little old, and we'll move it at some point. But GIS, don't try to do it over Google Drive or OneDrive or anything like that. You're going to have problems. Always do it on an on-site server or something of that sort. I have set up a farm plan template for Snohomish. that I moved this file geodatabase up to the cloud for them. And then all of for that particular ArcGIS Pro project, all of their base layers, their aerial photos, their roads, their hydrology, soils, all of that is taken from other data sources, either nationally, local, whatever. Their Snohomish County GIS has a really good repository for aerial photos, all that kind of stuff. So all of that data is up in the cloud somewhere. So because of that, they can open that template file from anywhere and create a farm plan map. So at home, whatever, because they're not looking to an online data or an on-premise server for that data. There are downfalls to that. It's slow, usually. But you deal with the slow by being able to use it anywhere you want. And if any of those, if you're in a hurry and let's say Snohomish County changes their server name, that link is broken. So if they are going to create those maps, you're always going to export that PDF at the end of it, so you have a static map. Always export, I'm going to repeat this, always export a PDF of your map and date it, because those links and that kind of stuff, it may be corrupt, they may be broken, you won't be able to open it. I mean, even if it's a temporary map, export that PDF to save it. Geez, I'm going to go off on a tangent here. Along that lines, ArcMap and ArcGIS Pro both export geo-referenced PDFs. What that means is if you bring it into an application like Avenza Maps, and it is free, Avenza is free up to 3 maps, and it's not very expensive after that. You can go out into the field, like say you export that PDF of your farm, you can export it, take it out in the field and see yourself walking around on that map, and then collect data on that PDF, and then export that data to a KML and bring it into ArcMap or ArcGIS Pro if you want. Someone in here, I think, has done that, right? Yeah, I was looking for you. You got your mask on again. I told her about it a couple weeks ago, and she went out and tried it. It is very handy, and I use it personally, mostly for hiking, because I export the area I want to go hike to a PDF. Boom, I'm out. I have all that information, and I can collect information as well. And I still use the free one after about 6 or 7 years of having that app on my phone. There are others out there, but that is a great way to find out where you're at while you're out in the field, especially if you have a hard copy with you and the PDF on your phone. Okay, let's get back into the actually building of a map. This is Pro. You should all be thinking about moving to Pro. It's more of the ribbon style that Microsoft came out with. It's very nice, but it is a big leap to go from ArcMap to Pro. I'm not going to go over it too much here. There are classes out there through MyEsri that if you have a ArcGIS Online account, through me and the state, you have a MyEsri class, a MyEsri catalog that you could go to and get all the courses that Esri provides for free. There are some you can pay for, but a lot of them are free, especially with a maintenance contract, which is what we have. And you can sit there and learn how to do GIS right there. And we have access to that, so please use that. And then let me know how it went, because I don't need them anymore, and I don't know how good they are. I just know some people have used them, but they never get back to me. Okay. I'm gonna kind of skip over doing a tour of Pro and just get into me making a map. So I'm going to take that photo that I drew on, and I'm going to do just act like Pauline brought this to me and I'm going to do a map. And I've already done the map, but I'm going to get rid of this. Now, some of you may think, hey, you've got a featured data set that has, you know, a couple of thousand fields on it. How do you distinguish between multiple farms? Well, one of the biggest things that I like about ArcMap, ArcView, and all of them is you can query out what you want. So I'm going to go in here and say, give me a new definition query. I'm going to say, okay, farm name is equal to Andy's. Let's spell my name right. Ooh, Andrew's Dairy. I already created one. I'm going to go Andy's Dairy. Oh, small farm. I'm going to copy that so I don't have to type it out again. And you'll notice those go away because none of them are called Andy's Farm, Andy's Small Farm. So now I'm going to create my own fields. And over here on the side, create features, I'm going to choose my fields to create. Now, if I click on this, I'm going to get a little warning here. And that is because right now it's set to create a generic fields with no attribute table. And what that will do is I will stop creating that polygon and it'll disappear because it doesn't have the Andy's Small Farm attribute in there. And to get around that, I can go into the properties. Where's my properties? Come on. Oh, please don't crash on me. Okay. I can go in here and say, hey, it's going to put it in there. So when I create that field, it will have Andy's Small Farm in there and I don't have to do anything else. Do you always have to do this? No, especially you don't have to do it right away. But since I'm doing stuff over the top of others, I do have to do this. But at the end of if I was doing this from scratch and there's no fields there already, I do it at the end of it. So I only see those fields and the attribute table only houses those fields. But this way I can do it and it's going to put that in there for me. If I had a database ID, I could put it in there right now. The owner name, I can put it in there. I'm just going to put Andy because why not? So now the warning went away. I can start creating fields. And I'm just going to start creating fields because I'm already almost a half an hour in. So I'm just clicking around, and if you hold down the space bar, it's not going to snap to anything. Right now, I don't actually have the snapping on, I don't think. And you just click around. And yes, I'm not going to teach you in this class. I'm not going to teach you how to create polygons and stuff. I'm just going to show you how I create a farm plan map. This is not a full training by any means. Okay, now where's my snapping? See, I'm still learning. Oh God, go away. Edit. Snapping. Snapping is off. Snapping is on. I still have to remember where things are nowadays. Now I've created that one field. Since I'm in here, I'm going to save it. Always save as much as you can. And for me, I turn this off because I don't need to know, do I want to save all edits? I don't need that dialogue. But now I have snapping turned on, and now I need to hold down the space key and turn off snapping while I'm doing these fields. And I'm just gonna go through and create my fields and follow what my planner gave me for field boundaries. Any questions while I'm clicking, doing lots of clicking?
How do you modify appointments
Ah. Okay, she asked, how do you modify a point or a polygon after you've done it? So I'm in the editing tab up here. I'm going to save it because it's a good reason. Always save your data. If Pro crashes, it might go away. That's one of those things I learned very early on. Always save as much as possible. If I want to, there's a couple ways you can edit this. You can use the edit vertices up here and move one vertice at a time. You can do a reshape. And I can just reshape it that way or go back. Then there's the split, and I'll undo this after I do it. Now I have two features. So those are the main things that you can do. You could also move it if you want, and you just move it around. And I'm going to hit escape. Okay, it's not going to like that. And then it'll stop doing what it's doing. Escape works sometimes depending on what you're doing. So I'm going to do a couple more fields. Does that answer your question? Okay. Same thing goes with points and lines. Come on, catch up with me. Yep.
How do you get the ribbon bar command on the far right?
Ah. So let's get, first we move that out of the way. So this is a pin. I can pin it to the side. I can bring it out and unpin it. And then you can also drag it around and you can see these little things all over the place. And it'll tell you where you're dropping it. Like, oh, I'm going to drop it there, or maybe I want it fully on the side. And that's what I want, and it's great. It's on the side. I'm pinning it to the side so that I have more screen real estate on my desktop. And you can do the same thing with your attribute table. You can take this whole attribute table and move it around if you want to, and do the same thing, pinning it and that kind of stuff. And I don't want to do that, so I'm going to hit escape and stop that. Hopefully that answers your question. And you can get these different dialog boxes different ways. You can just go to view and bring up a lot of them, the catalog view, the panes, that kind of stuff. But as you create, like when you start creating features, that dialog box will show up. Once you stop, it can go away. Mine, I've just got it set up to go off to the side. Okay, back to create features. Fields. Oh, catch up, come on. There we go. So now I've created a bunch of fields. I'm not going to create all the fields we need, but I do need, I'm going to hold down C and I'm going to get essentially the moving tool, the panning tool, and I can move around. As soon as I hold down, I take off C, it goes away. So it's an easy, quick way to move around. Yes.
You mentioned that thinking very often, sometimes you'll read immediately.
Yep.
I don't have that on, it's still happening, but why not?
It's usually something like a definition query, but sometimes it's ArcMap or ArcGIS Pro. So what I do is I save, shut it down, open it back up. And I haven't figured out why it's happening. It doesn't happen at my work very often, but for some reason, when I'm remoting into Snohomish on a laptop there, it will happen there. And I'm like, every once in a while, it's like, why isn't this feature showing up? Shut down Pro, open it back up. And at some point, you might be able to figure out what the cause is, and then let me know. And but it might be a connection issue. It might be like if you're going over Wi-Fi, it's bad Wi-Fi and it dropped out, and ArcGIS Pro doesn't like that. Neither does ArcMap. So having wired does help. I should try that at Snohomish, have them wire it in, and that may be, but I just shut down Pro. It's like, oh, this isn't, if it still doesn't show up, check your symbology. You might be writing over something, check your layers. Oh, is it behind, did I accidentally put it behind the aerial photo? Those are the first few things I would check. She asked, if she's creating a feature, a line, a polygon point, and after she creates it, why does it disappear if it's not the definition query like I fixed earlier? And that was the answer. I need to remember to say the question beforehand instead of afterwards. So now I've got my fields, but I do need some farmsteads. And so I'm going in here and putting in my farmsteads. I'm not being terribly precise with this, but if I wanted to, let's say I wanted to, let's move that back up. I wanted to create farmstead 2 right here, and I don't want to do clickety click all over the place. I'm going to click once and come on. Why is, of course it's not working. It's supposed to trace and it's not tracing. I wonder why that is. Oh, there it goes. Now it's tracing. It's just catching up with me. So it's tracing. You can, hopefully you can see the dotted line that it's creating while I'm tracing. And then double click and I'm done. This comes in really handy if you're following soils or wetlands or hydrology that have lots of vertices in there. And you just use the trace tool and trace it out. So now that I've got all my fields in there, I'm going to open the attribute table and fill out everything. And I'm not going to fill everything out, but that's number 1. And just to be nice, I'm going to turn that off. Go back to my map, move it up a bit. And that's number 2. And I'm going to put number 3, 4. And you notice as I'm doing this, it's labeling them for me. And that is because I've already, in my template, I've already got auto labeling turned on. Oops. Oh, no, caps lock. And Pro has a nice feature of, oh, I'm thinking, and then you're still doing something, and then it never goes in. And you have to go back to do it. It has a pause for some reason. Haven't figured out why. It might be the computer. Who knows? But then I'm gonna just put in hey, and you notice I have a drop down. Hey, corn. And farmstead 1 and farmstead 2. Those drop downs are what's called domains, and I created those in my file geodatabase. I'm not going to go over it today, but you can create drop downs in your file geodatabase because that's another 20 minutes we don't have time for. Yeah.
You've got polygons there. Is there a way to auto-populate?
Yes, there's 2 ways I do it. If it's like 20 or 30, I might just do, let's say tracked here is 5.2, and might do that. I hit the down arrow, hit the up arrow again. I'm going to hit Control C, down, the down arrow, Control V, and that's Woo. That's how I do it a lot. If you don't want to do it that way, let's say you have 200 you need to do, you don't want to do it that way. You can right click on here and do a field calculate. And put in after it catches up. You can put in down here tracked equals 5555 and then apply. Now, because I have one selected, it's only going to put it into that selected, which is handy. Then if it's like, oh, I had one selected, you unselect it and you can do the whole thing. That's how you could do it. Just remember to get out of my way, edit, and go back up. For some reason, it doesn't want to go back up. I'd been you, panel? Nope.
You have a template to this database that you can share that we could build off for.
There we go. Yes. Send me an email. I can send it to you. It's essentially the same one I built for the training we had back in 2018 through 2019. And that was on ArcMap. And yes, when I get the chance, I will be creating one for ArcGIS Pro. But I think that might be a full virtual one. I have to talk to CTD about that. But it takes a long time to create a training like this. Yeah. The biggest mistake? I think just forgetting to save, like spending an hour or two editing, and forgetting to save, and then you have to spend another hour or two. You're faster at it the next time because you've done it already. Usually, it happens to me all the time. It's like, you know, I forget to save and ArcGIS Pro crashes or ArcMap crashes, and I have to do it all over again. I usually know it, and it's like it's come through. But I've got in the habit ever since college because I went to Western for and got a minor in GIS. Back then, it was like save, backup, save, backup, 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 backup. And there's a lot of backups, and our server backs up twice a day. I've had to go into those backups and restore things. Because I do a lot of backups, I can recover a lot of things. One district had a server called a Synology, and they thought redundant was the same as backup. Redundancy is if this hard drive fails, there's another one that has already taken over for it, pop it out, the bad one, and pop a new one in. Redundancy. If one fails, another one's there. Redundancy is not the same thing as backup. They didn't have any backups, and someone went in there and deleted their entire GIS folder. And that same day, they sent me an intern over with that Synology. I took every hard drive out of there, put it into a Linux box to see if I can get the files back. I couldn't do it. Took it to a local IT shop. They spent a week trying to do it. They couldn't do it. So everything was gone. And I spent a couple of days rebuilding it for them. But all of that information was gone. Luckily, there was some like PDFs of maps and stuff, like the project maps, and that was in the customer folders instead of just in the GIS. By the time that Synology got back to the office, there was a small little external hard drive that they backed up to from then on. So backups, backups, backups. That's the biggest issue I've heard in district land, deleting your entire GIS. They still don't know how it happened. They were deleting a bunch of user folders, but they didn't specifically select that one when they were getting rid of the user folders. Yeah, the question was, what was the worst accident I've had because I lost data or something like that? Okay, where was I? Yes. So that is our fields. Now I'm going to take my fields and go in, and I'm going to create an acres. And this, I really don't understand why Esri can't automate that easily. There are ways of doing the automating, but you have to get into programming and whatnot. So I'm going to create acres. I'm going to do an area and then choose my acres. I wish it would just default because it's always the same in here. And I'm going to hit OK. And it's going to go through because it's GIS, and I'm going to create those acres. I'm going to turn back on my aerial photo. Now I have acres in there. Now I'm going to take that into Excel and make it look pretty. So usually in ArcMap, you had to export and that kind of stuff. You can copy nowadays, but in here, it's just going to copy the selected. I'm going to take it over to Excel, Control V. So paste, Control V is paste. And I have everything in here. Now, most people look at this and go, oh, I have to resort it, reformat it. I'm going to hit one button. Oh, no. It's supposed to do this. Okay, let's go into my macros. So in Excel back at the office. Yeah, there we go. That should have been a button up at the top. I think my old macro. I just ran a macro to do that. And you can record the macro, like do this once for one field or one farm, and just make sure you do it long enough so it'll get the 30 or 40 fields that one farm might have. And I recorded that macro, and while doing that, I'm doing the formatting for it. I'm sorting it. I'm doing all that stuff. And then I stop the macro. I save that macro and I can run the macro by putting it up here. Customize the quick access macros. That one, add. Boop. I can do it again just for the hell of it. Paste it in here, hit a button, and it's all done. Saves me so much time. It's still, I haven't figured out a way of doing a total yet. Because if all the fields, there were only 5 fields and 2, if they were all the same, I could, but they're never the same amount. So it takes me just a second to go in here, create a sum, and type in the word totals or total, and then write. I mean, that's all I have to do extra. And then I just copy, select them all. I'm copying it, and I'm going to I'm going to do this in portrait. You could, but it doesn't take me more than a couple of seconds to create the totals. And let's zoom in there and paste. And now I have a nice little table that's formatted all nice. Of course, it's just an image on here now. I can't do any editing to it. You might be able to figure out a way of doing all that, but I just copy and paste from Excel. And because this is so small and it only takes me like 30 seconds to do, I don't save these tables unless it's a really big dairy and there's a lot of editing I've already done, then I'll save those fields. Yes. Yep. Yep. So what I think she's asking is, how do I not get the aerial photo in my legend? So now that we're on to, oh, Jesus, I've only got 14 minutes left. Let's go back here real quick and unselect edits. Oh, damn. Okay. No, I've got till noon. Never mind. I'm good. So I'm going to go in here in the layout. I have the map frame right here, my farm plan maps. That's this one right here. Sorry, I'm flipping back and forth. In my layout, here's the drawing order and my map is at the bottom. Here's my fields and all that kind of stuff. I'm going to right click on fields and zoom to layer so you can all see it. But up here, back to her question is, what if I don't want the aerial photo showing up in my legend? Well, I can just click on the legend over here, which is this right here. And you can see me turning it on and off. I can also unlock it or lock it. Oh, it jumped on me. I can lock it so I would actually have to unlock it to edit it on the map itself. And usually it's just locked so I don't accidentally select it and move it. But I can turn on and off my aerial from there. So what she's saying is her maps have this aerial 2019 RGB on there and she can't figure out how to get rid of it. That is how you get rid of it. You can also do that in ArcMap. It's just a different way of doing it. And so in the layout, no, we're going to come back to the layout. I'm going to run through and create a bunch of features here because we don't have a lot of time. I'm just going to create a bunch of them. I'm going to turn on my soils so I can see them. And then create features. I'm going to do what? Oh, come on. This is ArcMap trying to catch up to me. So we've determined ArcMap Pro does not work well on my laptop, or it does not work fast. There are websites out there that say, hey, if you really want a screaming computer for GIS, use this. But most of us can use it on almost anything that's built in the last 5 years. This is actually, I think, 6 years old at this point. I'm going to do a pipeline. I'm going to do a miscellaneous polygon and a miscellaneous that and a fence. Maybe, who knows? Maybe I'll get to it. Maybe I won't. So I'm going to do a heavy use area. Heavy use area. And since I'm there, I'm going to do manure storage. I don't know if this is actually manure storage, but we're going to go there. This is obviously manure storage, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to kind of treat this as a small farm plan. And then gutters. F2 will stop your, instead of double clicking, you can use F2 if you've already clicked your last one, if I forgot to double click. So those are my gutters. And an underground outlet. Woohoo. My planners tell me which one. And then I go into the attribute table. Say again? No, I will do that afterwards usually, and using the definition queries and the symbology. The question was, how do I differentiate between planned, existing, and what's the other one? Planned, existing, and proposed. I have 3 in my attribute table. I have those, and in the symbology layer, if there's multiples, I will actually put it into the symbology layer with different symbology. And because I have a pipeline symbology in my symbology tools, I can say, okay, this one, but do it a little bit more green, blue, or a little bit more green, and I just change either the color or the line symbology itself. Oh, we got to do a well. Got to have a point. Oh, wells. A well's already on there. Yeah, I turned on well. There's other stuff on here that I've used before. So all of these, I can go in, let's say my miscellaneous polygon. I can go in the attribute table and fill them out. I'm not going to fill them out now because it'll take time and I don't have that much time. So now that I've got a nice farmstead map maybe, and I have the fields on here, I'm going to create my maps. Now, I have two separate maps I'm making. I'm creating a farmstead map and I'm creating a fields map. Well, on my farmstead map, I don't, or my fields map, I don't need all the farmstead stuff. So I'm going to get rid of the well. Another thing Arc Pro likes to do is jump around on me. I'm going to get rid of the pipelines and the wells and the fences and all that kind of stuff. So this is only going to be my fields. And I'm going to go back to here and save my edits because you always want to save. And then back to the layout. So down here, I'm going to do 4,800. So it will be 1 inch equals 400, the engineering scales. All my maps, I try to stick with the engineering scale. So if you use a ruler, 1 inch equals 100 feet, 200 feet, 300 feet, 400 feet, 500 feet. And I try to stick to that as much as possible until you get to this is the county. Then I just kind of, yeah, I don't need to do that. And it's usually by miles. So I've got my farm plan map. I've got my table. I've got my small legend here. And I've got ArcMap trying to catch up. And I can tell that in the lower right, you can see it going. It's because of that aerial photo is really large and it's running off my hard drive where everything else is running off of too. So I'm gonna put in, come on, there we go. Andy's small farm at 582. Oh, look, I have to move this. And I move it up. Nice and simple. So we zoom back out. So if I had the entire attribute table filled out, and you can see I have nulls on the table, I might as well go up to share, export, and export a PDF. And yep, no, which folder am I in? Yes, I'm in the right one. And I'm going to put Andy's, well, since it's me, that's my last name. That's how we name my fields and all my projects. Last name dash first name underscore. Whoops. Learn how to spell and learn how to type. Andy's small farm. That's the farm name. And then I usually put small farm at the end of my small farms. I don't put dairies, do that. I just never did. If it's a horse farm, I'll put horse farm, and it kind of differentiates when you're doing the, when you're looking for stuff. And then because I want to be able to come back to this and know exactly what date it was, 0614. And you notice that is a year first, the month, and then the day. And the reason I do that is if I actually use something like June, and then June 5th, whatever, the word June, and then I do another one in April, the April will sort before the June. This way, anytime I do a map and I have 10 of them, they will sort correctly every single time. So, and well, if you use names. And I do that for every map I've done for the last 15 years or so. And it's very handy, especially when some of these dairy farmers are doing farm plan maps every year because they change their fields. And it's a very, after you learn that 8-digit code and you learn to see it and you learn to, oh, this is a date. It's really easy to do and easy to read. And now I'm just going to export. Hopefully it doesn't take forever. Any questions while that's exporting? Has anybody fallen asleep yet? I saw some eyes shut. I can see it. So now that I've got my fields done, I want to go over to my farmstead. Now you notice there's a whole bunch of other fields on here. Well, I need to get rid of the Andes fields, or get rid of everything that's not Andes. So we need Andes small farm, apply, and it only shows those. Well, I only need the stuff at the farmstead anyways. Oh, look, I did really good on those lines over there. Yeah. So that's my farmstead. And now I'm going to turn on, let's see, did I do some polylines? Yep. Polygons, points if I have them, and wells. Some of them are in there. So now that I have those in there, I will go over to my farmstead layout. And the great thing about Pro is you can have multiple maps, multiple layouts, all off the same thing. It is so handy now that instead of 5 different projects for 5 different maps, I can have them all in one setup. And now we wait. This is like a theme today. Wait. Yep. I have templates set up for everything. If I know I'm going to redo it at some point, I set up a template. So from here, I want to zoom into that farmstead. So what I'm going to do is activate that data frame in there. And now I can edit, I can do things in here just like I'm doing it in this tab over here. So I can select that farmstead. I'm going to zoom to that farmstead, which is, I'm just going to do it over here. Selection, zoom to selection, and then change it to whatever I need. Let's do, what is it? 80, I'm going to do 960. And that will put it at 1 inch equals 900? No, 900 feet, something like that. Or 800 feet, 800 feet. And then what I'm going to do right here, it turns off the activation part. And I'm going to go back to it in a second anyways, because I forgot to unselect it. But usually what I'm doing in here is activate. And that time I right clicked on it and used the context menu instead of using the layout menu. Usually what I'm doing in here, I'm going to clear it, is also adding labels. And that is under graphics. And right here is just a straight text. Now I'm going to put in gutter. I know it's not what I'm supposed to put, but that's what I'm going to put. It's supposed to be what? It doesn't work that way anymore, but I do need to go back to my layout, zoom in, and then activate. Yes, well, in this whole project, it's set to a specific font. It's defaulted to whatever font this is. Let's see, Tahoma. And what I'm going to do is move it over here so people can see it, and right click, show and hide the leader. Oh, I don't like that leader. My default at back at work is a different text symbol. So what we're going to do is general options, text, appearance, Tahoma's fine. Let's make this a little bigger. Okay, we don't want a fill color. Tahoma, yep. Fill color, no color. Outline color, none. Like all of this stuff. Oh, there's the call out. Yeah, balloon call out. We don't want a balloon call out. Simple line call out. That's what I want. And the halo I do want. And you see it's not changing it on the map yet. We want white. Yep, white. And the halo is 1. I'm going to do that 0.5. And then now, the text is white still too. That's the fill, size, color. Where's the? Oh, I changed the wrong thing there. Outline color. Now that's just weird. Text fill color. I don't want white, I want black. There we go. So now if I hit apply and I have a leader line and what's called a halo around it. Now I have this defaulted on my work account or at work on my ArcGIS. And now we're waiting on ArcMap or Arc Pro again. I have all that defaulted, so I don't have to spend that 1 minute trying to do all that. So it defaults to with that halo, with that font and all that kind of stuff. And because I don't have that default here, I'm not going to go back up to the graphics and do another one of these. I'm just going to copy, paste, drag it down, move the leader line, double click, and underground outlet. Click off of it, move it a little bit so it's farther in, and then I'm going to do the same thing again, a copy and paste, drop it over here, but this time I want to get rid of the leader line because I don't need it in with my heavy use area. Click off of it, move it around to where I need. And then I'm going to use the leader line again. So I'm just doing this, copying and pasting because it's just quicker for me to do. Manure, lagoon, no, manure storage. Storage. A little bit there. And I'll leave the well as the dot because they can see it in the legend. And if I wanted to label these buildings, I could, but it'd just take more time that we don't really have. And then I'm going, and the reason I do it in essentially I come into the layout to edit this, or actually this one. I'm editing I'm going to the layout to edit this is because I know when I put it in here, it'll be the same, it'll be the correct text size. If I'm in here and I start putting something in and then I zoom in and zoom out in the layout, the text won't be the same size. I prefer to do it that way. You could do it either way you want, but I do it in here and activate the data frame and then put in my labels because I know that is exactly where they're going to be on the map when I'm done. Now, some people will put the labels directly into the layout, and that means insert. I can put something here, something here, and it's great. It's on the layout. The problem being is as soon as I move the map, let's say, oh, I want to move this over just a little bit, that the text does not go with it because it's not on the data frame. It's on the layout itself.
Wait, so you got the text to stay on the map, like,
So, yeah, so right now I am, you can tell from right here, I have activated the data frame, this one. So I am editing this tab through the layout. And if I create a label right now, it'll move around with the map. But if I go back and deactivate the data frame and move a label around or make a label, it will only be on that layout. It'll still be over the map, but as soon as you move the map a little bit or zoom in and out, that label is not going to go with it. It's just going to stay exactly where you put it on that layout.
that's what I do.
Yeah. So I activate, deactivate, that's the way to go there. Someone almost raised their hand over there.
Let's say you wanted to just zoom out, change your mind, text size to auto.
It will a little bit, and there are settings that you can say that. I usually just leave it. If it's a little bit, if it's a lot, I will actually select them all and change the font size and then remove them. But what I do when I'm doing this is I find that perfect zoom scale, the perfect scale, and then I do the labeling, because I've found the other way, it just looks wacky and you're going back to edit it all the time. So that is my farmstead, and you'll notice I've got a whole bunch of stuff on this legend I do not need, because this is a template. It had everything in there. I need to get rid of them. Well, to do that, wrong one. I'm going to open the legend over here, and I'm going to go into, do we have any miscellaneous points at all? No, we have no miscellaneous points, so I'm going to turn that one off. But we do have miscellaneous polygons because we have a heavy use area and a manure storage. And I'm going to right click properties, and it's going to pop up over here. And this is how I get to it. There's other ways of getting to it. I just right click and then I go backwards. I know it's weird. What I did was right click over here, open properties, and it goes directly into the layer, and I can turn on and off the layer information over here. But I can also go out and do the whole field over here. But what I really want to do, scroll down to polygon layer, and I'm going to open up the legend or the symbology for that particular field. And it should be doing that right now. Come on. And now we're waiting. I need to get rid of that all other values, because I don't want that showing up on my legend. Oh, come on. Okay, I'm going to go see if I can do it in here. Sometimes it'll let you, sometimes it won't. And it's supposed to be opening this, and it didn't. So I just opened it myself, and I hit back, and now I can see all of the legend here. There's other ways of opening it. There's many different ways of opening it. But what I did, this is usually open on my desktop, but today I don't have as much screen real estate, so it's minimized to the side over here in symbology. So if I wanted to do this one, and it pops back over there. Let's just pin that out. So if I want to do either one, I can click on them. And then to get to the whole thing, I just hit the back button. I just find it's easier, it's quicker that way. And then I can right click on this, remove, or I can go up to more and show all other values, and it turns it off. And now it's gone from my legend. And for my polygons, I need to get rid of all of the layers again. You can either click on that and hit the back button, or hit that and do the same thing, remove. So now we go back to the map layer, and you notice if I'm in here, I can go anywhere I want. And my farmstead map layout hasn't moved because it's static on wherever you had it, which is very handy when you can do multiple layouts everywhere, and it's really handy to do that kind of stuff. Of course, there's some downfalls of it. You got to make multiple maps, but in general, it's really nice. It's automatically locked. So if you've gone in here and chosen the location and you move it in here, it's not going to move again until you come in here and move it. And to do that, I would activate, move it, and then deactivate, and it would stay static in that location. And you can also, there's right click here, activate, or in layout, activate, either one. You can also bookmark. So I can bookmark this Andy's small farm, whatever, and I can come back to that from wherever I want. And this replicates throughout all of your layouts and farm plan map, or layouts and data frames. So you can use it in multiple data frames. Very handy if you're going back and forth between things. So now that I've got all my legend all nice and neat, I can do, well, come on. Maybe I can do it. Yeah, that's true. Did I lock the text? Okay. So over here, which one? Logo, title bar. No, it's unlocked. No, it was ArcMap trying to catch up with me again, or ArcGIS Pro trying to catch up. Andy's small farm. And now I can take this, and since I've got the time, I can take this and export it to another PDF with the date and all that kind of stuff, with Farmstead added to it. And if I wanted to, it could be Farmstead 1, Farmstead 2, that kind of stuff. You'll notice down here, I didn't have to play with any of the dates. I didn't even have to play with a cartographer. Let's unlock that so I can show you what's there. That is what's called dynamic text. It is essentially short code, and it's saying, get the date, format it in the short version of the date, and get the user, which is me, and put it in there. So whatever your username is, mine is Afe, the Windows user, it'll pop it in there right away. I don't have to do anything. I never have to do anything anymore. I don't have to change the date. So when I export that PDF, that date will stay there all the time. And I don't have to remember to change the date. You can even do it with the disclaimer. This disclaimer, year format of the date. So I never have to change that year on there. Always there. Now there's also down here, I can't remember why someone told me farm plan maps had to have the center point if you send it to NRCS. I added that. That center point right there is also coordinates and path. That is a dynamic center point in longitude, latitude. And it also has where that APR file, the ArcGIS Pro file, is located. That is very handy too. When you come back 5 years later and it's someone else that did it, you can find it. Or even myself, it's like, For farm plan maps, usually don't use it, but for those big maps, that other project maps, very, very handy. And again, that is all code. And to add those in there, insert dynamic text. So you can put in credits and descriptions and footings and end time and start times, and most of the stuff I use are down here. So there's the user, there's the current time, when it was printed, service layer credits. I don't, I don't need to know that. The service layer credits are very handy. Has anyone ever used the Esri base maps behind a map, and at the bottom it gives you the credits where you got that base map? And if it's a small map, it's taking up a ton of room. You can use that, the service layer credits, and it adds in the service layer credits. And I don't have one on here, so it's not going to actually add it in there. And then it takes it off of the map and gives you wherever you can put it. I usually put it behind the map. So you can't see it, but it is there. And, you know I'm not giving them credit, but usually if it's a really big map, I leave the credits down there because they're usually really long. So I just bury it behind the map and it's all good. Any questions? That essentially is how I do my small farm plan maps, all the farm plan maps. Any questions? Because we're 12 minutes from lunch. Actually, you could go there right now if you wanted to. Questions? No questions? Anything on basic GIS or any GIS questions? ArcGIS, yeah, there we go. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, you first.
So I